Gonzo Bankers, Tony DeSantis back with another hot take. We're going to go into the second regulation in the series that we talked about, the latest things that are out there that we've got to be aware of from a payments perspective. So
what I want to focus on right now, Tony, is tell me what's changing with Durbin. Durbin 1.0.
Yeah, so the regulatory cap is 10 billion. We all know that, right? So once you hit 10 billion, your interchange basically goes from probably a blended 38, 39 cents down to 21 cents. So that's already a major impact for anybody who's close to or thinking about crossing 10 billion. And again, this isn't a regulatory change. This is in the existing legislation that the Fed can and should review the cost of debit processing on a regular basis and adjust downward, ironically not upward for fraud, but downward, any decreases in debit processing costs. And so the Fed has come back and basically said the appropriate margin for you, which used to be at 21 cents, is now going to be at 14.4 cents.
That's insane. I mean, what is that going to be on a percentage basis?
It's
what
like,
are we losing here?
It's 31% for everybody who's already over 10 billion. But what's missed in that discussion is the fact that anybody getting close to 10 billion is looking at probably a 60 to 70% impact, maybe, because they're going to be going basically from, let's call it 40 cents to 18 cents, right? Or 38 cents to 20, to 18 cents. So it's going to be massive.
And that's why we've got clients looking today to try and do whatever they can to stay under that 10 billion mark. Because let me ask you this, 10 billion in 2011, whenever this came through, what do you think it's worth today?
Oh, I mean, it's not even close. I think there was sub 20 $10 billion institutions back then, and now there's over 100.
It would be a 14.5 billion institution today.
Yeah.
For some reason, that number didn't change. So now we're stuck.
And that doesn't even Barney Frank, who wrote the legislation, has said 10 billion was too low to start with, which is why the next legislation we're going to talk about is set at 100. And that doesn't solve the problem, but at least would have mitigated some of this impact. The way that I would frame this for folks, and the easiest way to think about it is, we sized an impact for a client who was $9.9 billion. So on the cusp. They have 269,000 debit cards today. In order to cross 10 billion and generate the same amount of revenue they do today, they would need to add an incremental 498,000 active debit cards. They basically would have to grow their debit card portfolio, active debit card portfolio, by 188%.
Impossible. That's just not.
It can't happen. So you have to find 30 different strategies to mitigate the revenue impact.
We've got to look outside of just that non-interest income at this point.
So obviously, for anybody close to 10 billion or even over 10 billion, this impact, the final ruling in terms of what the actual number is going to be hasn't come out yet. So we're cautiously optimistic it could be a little bit more than 14.4, but it's not going to be 21. So if you're close or you're on the verge, or even if you're over, definitely make sure you've got that sized up correctly and you understand that impact.